This is a detailed step-by-step installation guide for an automatic power trunk with kick sensor from Hansshow. This is the version 7 of the automatic power trunk, but my video is also very similar to the installation guide of other versions in the past from version 1 to version 7. If you have a newer Tesla Model 3 like the 2021 Tesla Model 3 refreshed or a Model Y, you do not need an automatic power trunk because your car already comes with one. However, if you're interested in an automatic power frunk where you can do similar things, where you can open and close the power frunk using your phone's app, using your cost control, then I do have another video for you. For older Tesla Model 3s like my 2018 Tesla Model 3, this is an amazing accessory. I have thoroughly enjoyed it for the last month. I was thoroughly testing it to make sure this works well before putting out this video, and I highly recommend this for older Tesla Model 3s. You can open the trunk, truly a hands-free experience using the kick sensor, the buttons that we're going to install today, using your Tesla app to both open and close it, and the internal car controls using the central console to open and close the automatic power trunk. This is amazing, especially for grocery shopping. If your hands are tied, now you don't have to touch the trunk at all. No fingerprints on the trunk. You can truly just use your kick sensor to operate this power trunk. I'm super excited to bring this video out to you. If you have any questions or if you run into any issues, please let me know in the comment section below or reach out to me directly via all of these contact methods displayed on the screen. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Shiva Sapkota. I'm an engineer out here in Colorado, USA. I make crazy Tesla videos with so many installations guide, and I try to make it as easy as possible for you to install this modification and accessories. If you find today's video helpful, please consider being a channel subscriber so you don't miss any of my future videos. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. I really appreciate your continued support to the channel. Let's get started with today's video. Couple of tools you will need for this installation: a pry tool, flathead screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, ratchet wrench, or even get a power wrench. Makes your life so much easier during this job. 10mm socket, 8mm socket, half-inch socket, Torx 30 and 40 bits, power drill, pair of pliers, fishing wire, WD-40, small hook, and a painter's tape. This installation may look daunting, and it is, but hopefully you will find it easy to install using my step-by-step guide. Honestly, the hardest part of this installation is all the wire routing. So before we begin, let's look at the big picture. We are going to install 2 power trunk struts and route those cables to the control unit housed inside the trunk. We need to remove the tail lights and bumper to route those cables. We'll install a kick sensor and route that cable to the control unit as well. We'll replace the existing latch with the Hansshow latch and connect the cable to the actuator motor, which will connect to the control unit. We then need to route the cable through the wire grommet to the top trunk lid. We'll use splitters to connect the new wires to a few locations and also drill a hole on the trunk lid plastic plate to install trunk close button. Finally, we'll route some cables toward the back seat where we'll connect the power cable to the 12-volt battery connection under the back seat and communication cable to the OBD connector under the central console. Now you know the big picture. Let's proceed with step-by-step guide. Here we have cables that needs to connect to this controller box as well as other components of the car that will walk you through step by step in this video. Here is a controller box. This is slightly different than the previous generations of the controller boxes. So this have fewer ports and there's nothing on this side. There's a SD card slot, which I assume is for software updates down the road. But the control box has instructions on what goes here. They also send you the cable that goes on the OBD connector, the power cable. They send you extra clips so that in case yours break from top, you can use that. They send you a pry tool, electrical tape, zip ties. There's the button that we're going to install, washers. So they send you everything that you need. And then here, they even send you the drill bit so that you can install that trunk button on the back, bunch of double-sided tape, and then a fishing wire. Here is the foot sensor and the connection for the foot sensor that we're going to install. we have the motor for the latch here with the connection. This is also the latch motor connection, and these are leveled, color-coded. Try to make everything as easy as possible for you. And then these are just the struts. So you see there are two struts here for the right and left, and each of them have two cables that we need to connect to the controller. And here is the latch. So this is the latch that we're going to replace from the car here. You can start with whatever step you feel comfortable with. I'm going to start mine on the top trunk lid. Remove the plastic cover by simply pulling on it. It requires some force and you will likely break some clips, but Hansshow does send you extra clips for when you put it back on. If you have some stubborn clips that broke, you might need a metal pry tool to remove it. First, we're going to grab the cable harness that says fish wire female on one side, and the other side has two plugs each. One of them is yellow that says handle plug, and the other one says motor plug. Now we're going to reach the top trunk lid and locate the motor latch area. This is the same place where you can find that emergency eject pull on the trunk. We're going to remove the plug that is connected to the motor by simply pushing on the tab and pulling it out. Now connect the male plug that you just removed from the motor to the female motor plug from Hansshow. It is labeled as motor plug. You cannot get this wrong because there's only one size that fits for this entire installation. These are 1-to-1 plugs. Next, plug the male end of the Hansshow plug to Tesla's motor latch plug. Next, we're going to move on to the Tesla's trunk open button. You're going to locate this black plug with the gray tab and first pull the tab out. Now push on that tab end and then the whole connector just comes out. Plug the male connector we just removed from the trunk button to this female yellow connector from Hansshow. Keep in mind it won't click, but it will fit well. Now take the male Hansshow plug from the same harness as the yellow female plug and plug it into that male plug. Both of those connections are now complete. You just have the other end of the harness that has this internal yellow color with pins that says fish wire female. Before fishing the wires, we need to remove some panels from the bottom trunk so we have space to fish the cables. Start by removing these plastic clips from internal trunk area. You can use a flathead screwdriver or a pry tool to remove these clips. Do this on both left and right side. Now gently lower the trunk liner and pull on this plastic tab on the top. Do the same on the other side and pull down on the plastic tab. This plastic tab can now completely be removed. Next, we'll remove the plastic tab from the bottom of the trunk. You just have to pull it out using some force. Finally, you need to remove these plastic screws from the bottom inner trunk using a pry tool. We need to access the bottom area later to route the struts and other wires. Now we can bend the trunk liner to have access to the inside component area. First, unplug the trunk light on both sides by pushing on the little tab and pulling it out. Now we need to remove the caps from the wire grommet on both bottom and top so we can route the cable. To make this routing easier, use a small flathead screwdriver to undo the zip ties on the wire grommet, and you can put those back on later. Do this for both top and bottom zip ties. Now we are going to grab this cable harness that says tailgate, kick sensor, right and left plugs, and other side has a tailgate and fish wire male. We're going to grab the side that has just two plugs, the fish wire male and then tailgate, and route it to the top. However, this tailgate plug is quite big and it would be impossible to route through the grommet. So we're going to pull the wires out and just route the wires instead of the whole plug, and we'll install the plug after routing. Take a picture of the tailgate plug to get the wire coloring correct. Then grab a small hook or a pointy object and pull on the yellow tab all the way out and basically pull up on these little metal clips while pulling the wires out. Take your time with this, as this could be frustrating, but they do come out at the end. Now fish both of these wires, the fish wire male and then the tailgate wire we disconnected through the hole inside the trunk. You can also use fishing wire to route the cables through here. Put some WD-40 from the top of the wire grommet to make the path slippery and easier to route. Now insert your fishing wire from the top and grab it from the bottom. You can slide the grommet cap a little bit out, but pay special attention to how the original Tesla wires are route it and follow the same path. You want to be very careful to not route your Hansshow cable from the wrong side of the trunk lift. Now fix these two cables using some electrical tape to the fishing wire. Put a lot of tape as we don't want to pull on the end of the connector or our exposed cable to touch the WD-40. Now you just have to pull the fishing wire from the top. Take your time to not cause damages to these wires. Your fishing cable will probably be very slippery, so use a towel to pull. Take a lot of time with this again. This takes some patience and force. After the wires are out on top, you need to route the liftgate wire one more time to the very top of the trunk lid. This is an easy run though. You can leave the fishing wire male plug still hanging on the grommet. Now we are going to grab the fishing wire female plug from earlier when we connected to the latch motor and then the trunk button and route it to the wire grommet hole and connect it with the fishing wire male plug that we just fished from the bottom. You can now close the top grommet cap. Now we need to refer to our picture of the tailgate button plug we disassembled earlier. We can then put the cables back on by simply sliding onto the plug. The cables might bend a little, so this also requires some patience. We are now ready to install the liftgate button. This step requires you drilling a hole into the trunk lid liner. They send you a bit for the perfect fit, so you don't have to worry about marking it or anything. Just use your drill and make the hole on the plastic liner. Now insert the button with cable first, then insert the button through the hole. Make sure to face it downwards as the liner will go on top. Just push the button and it might require some force. We're almost done with the top portion of this installation. Next, connect the button plug to the tailgate plug we routed earlier. You can now install the top liner back on. You just have to push the liner in exactly how it came out. Make sure to align the plastic tabs. If you broke some while pulling out, now is the time to install new ones from Hansshow. To have a cleaner installation space, close the grommet cap and put the zip ties back on. Now let's remove the tail lights in order to be able to remove the bumper. Remove the tail light connector by simply pushing down on the end of the clip and pulling out. This shouldn't require much force, so make sure you are holding down the clip while pulling the connector out. Grab a 8mm socket wrench and undo the two screws on the top and bottom. Now using a regular wrench, remove the big plastic screw cover on the outside of the tail light. You can now safely remove the tail light. You just have to gently wiggle it and pull it out. Be gentle with this and take your time. The tail lights are held by two plastic pins on the left side in addition to the two metal screws. Now let's move on to removing the bumper and installing the power struts. Before removing the bumper, I would recommend putting some painter's tape on the edge of the bumper to prevent scratches while removing the bumper. You need to access these three plastic screws behind the wheel. There are two on the visible location and one where you will likely have to bend down to see behind the wheel. Use a pry tool to remove those. Now on each side there is a Torx 30 screw holding the bumper together, which you will remove as well. Now under the bumper you will find 7 10mm socket screws. There are 2 under these tabs here, 3 in the middle, and 2 at the very inside. Start with the inside ones. This is where a power socket wrench comes in very handy. Take your time and make sure to gather all those screws to safely put them away. Now use the 10mm socket to undo 2 screws under the tail light spots. Do the same step on both sides. You can then start from each side of the bumper to gently pull it out. There is a metal piece on each side that you need to retract, as you will need that piece to put the bumper back together. This piece might fall on the ground or even inside the bumper assembly, which is okay because you can get it when the bumper comes out. Just pry enough from each side so that bumper comes a little loose and ready for you to take it out. Now simply pull it up from the tail light location of one side and make your way towards the other side. I highly recommend having a helper to hold one side of the bumper while you make your way to the other side. You can drop the bumper slowly on the ground. Keep in mind there is this sensor connection you have to undo before completely removing the bumper. That plug was so stubborn for me and felt like it was cemented. So not to damage it, I just left it in place and worked around that plug. Now let's install the new struts. We're going to remove the old one and install the new Hansshow struts with wires. First, put a blanket or towel on top of the glass to prevent the glass from accidentally cracking during this install. Take a flathead screwdriver and pry this out metal bracket. The bracket will either lift up like this one or pull out, but either way it is loose now. You can simply pull on the strut and it comes right out. Have another person hold the trunk while you do this, as the trunk is heavier than it looks. Follow the exact same procedure for the bottom part of the strut. Now grab the new strut and you can push it into the mount. Align the holes and apply some force to it to put it in. I find it easier to first install the bottom side and move on to the top side. If you're having difficulties pushing the struts into place, try using a flathead screwdriver to pull on the bracket like how we did to remove the original strut. Install one side strut first, then move on to the other side. Time to route those strut cable. If you look top down from the trunk, you'll find two rubber caps. These are plugging the holes that we'll use to route the strut and kick sensor wire. We're going to remove those rubber plugs using a pry tool. Route the strut cable along the sidewall and run it through this tab. Just make sure you're not running the cable through anywhere it will interfere with the bumper mounting or the tail light. Grab the end of the strut cable and route it from under the crash bar and pull it through from inside. This might be a little tedious as the hole on the left side, at least for me, was rather very small. Follow the exact same procedure on the right side. The right side through hole in my car was a lot bigger than the left side, so a little bit easier routing. If you're installing the kick sensor, you also need to route that cable now through the right hole. We now need to remove the existing latch and install a new latch with a motor from Hansshow. Before removing the Torx 40 screws, first put a tape to mark the edges of this latch, so we can put the new one on the exact same spot. While removing the Torx screw, mine ended up stripping and I wasn't able to remove it. If you run into the similar issue, this speed out tool does the magic. I was able to extract that strip screw and just had to get a replacement countersunk screw from a hardware store. Put the new latch motor in a line with the marking tape you put in earlier and secure it in place. Make sure it is flushed and fully aligned. Put some double-sided tape that came with the kit on the latch motor and secure it in the bottom wall of the trunk. Let's now route the power, canvas, and ground cable. We're going to connect the ground first and we'll connect it to the existing grounding location on the side of the trunk. Just use a 10mm socket to loosen the screw and insert the ground connection. This is the black cable with this hook. Next, we'll go to the back seat and fold the seat down. Then we'll remove this panel here. You just have to gently pull on it and it should come right out. Take out the plastic screw here using a pry tool. This allows us to have a lot of room to route the cable from the back. Route the power cable. This is the red cable with the plastic jacket on the tip and the canvas cable that says canvas towards the back seat, utilizing the space we just made. After you route those two cables, go ahead and lift the seat up. Next, slide this little tab under the back seat and lift the seat from one side. Follow the same step on the other side. Now you have to remove the seat heater connection from both sides. This will allow you to completely remove the back seat and put it out of your way. We'll first unhook the high voltage power from the car. To do that, just push down on this tab and pull on the connector. You will hear a clunk noise, which is normal. Next, connect the power cable to the red cable connector with the fuse. Just slide it into the metal piece and overlap those plastic jackets to secure them. Now we're going to cut a small slit on the electrical tape of the 12-volt battery terminal cover. We won't cut the rubber, just the tape, so we can slide our positive connector through the rubber piece. Now take a 1/2-inch socket and loosen the knot on this terminal. You only have to loosen just a little bit so that you can slide the positive connector piece and tighten the knot back on. Before we connect the high power back on, let's go ahead and connect the canvas plug. For this, you need to access the OBD connector in the back of the center console. Use a pry tool to pry open the very bottom panel in between the two front seats. Next, pinch on the middle tab of the OBD connector and pull it out. Plug the male end of the OBD connector from Tesla to the female port of Hanshow's OBD plug and plug the male end of the Hansshow connector to the female Tesla OBD plug. It should look like this. Route the canvas cable through the back seat under the door sill panels and bring it to the side of the front passenger seat. There's a little slit in the carpet for you to route the cable under the seat. Make the connection with the male canvas plug you routed from the back to the female plug that is connected to the Tesla plug. Hide the access cable under the seat and put the central console plate back on. Go ahead and connect the high power battery and put the seat back on. Let's connect everything and test the system before putting everything back together. So before we give it a try, we're gonna hook up everything, and here in the control box it shows you the instructions. This one is V7. It doesn't have any other ports other than just here on this side. So let me show you where everything goes. This is a plug and play, and for the most part it's color coded. So these are our struts wire, and they go where there is the blue, and it fits right here. It doesn't matter which side you put it in, which struts, but if you want to coordinate it so that this is the right struts and then here are our left struts. So we're gonna plug in the left ones here. Next, we are going to plug in the motor latch ones. Those are the two cables here, and the level on this cable harness shows that these are the motor latch cable. They look black, and again, you can't get this wrong because they have to fit for it to go in. So right here and then right here. So those two are in. Then there is this guy right here. It says state signal. And then there is this black cable that looks like this port, and that one goes here, the black one, because it fits, and then the state signal goes right here. We have got a cable that says kick sensor, so we need to route the kick sensor that we routed earlier from the bottom, and we're gonna plug in the kick sensor right here. So kick sensor is plugged in. Then on this cable, this is the power one. This is purple that goes here, and then this next one is the canvas connector that is gonna go right here. So let's connect the canvas, and then right here, this port, there is nothing where this cable goes, but there is another cable with a female port that looks like this where we can put it in. So those are connected. And then right here, this cable goes on your right tail light. So you plug this into the tail light, and then this one goes to the Tesla's original tail light connection. So there's this one that says left light plug, so we're gonna plug it into the trunk light. And then this one says right plug, so we're gonna plug this into the right trunk light. Now finally, we're gonna plug in this power cable because everything else is connected. And if you hear a beep, that's a good sign that you have power and everything is hooked up. Now press on the newly installed liftgate button to close the trunk. If the trunk is not latching properly, or if it opens and closes again, try a few things. First, make sure the weather protection gasket is fully tucked in. Push it all around to make sure it is fully in. Even if it looks like it's in, sometimes it is not. Next, twist this button on the trunk to all the way inward. That will probably fix the issue. If not, check the latch location and you might have to move it slightly. Let's install the kick sensor. This is an upgraded kick sensor from the previous generation. This one doesn't have the bottom piece to it. The white part faces to the bottom and it can sense under the plastic bumper piece. We just installed 2 screws from the bottom. They send you a guide to place and make pilot holes. So we'll place it in the plastic piece of the bumper and make the pilot holes. Depending on your model, you might actually have a small removable part here, which makes the installation a lot easier. Go ahead and secure the kick sensor by securing those screws from the bottom. This is what it looks like from the top. Now is the time to install everything back on, starting with the bumper. Just follow my steps in reverse. I did wanted to give you a pro tip installing the bumper. Start by sliding this bottom piece and make sure it is seated inside the plate towards the front of the car. This is extremely important before you start putting the screws back on. Once you insert the plate, install those inner screws first and secure the rest of the bumper. For cable management, you can hide some of the cables under the gap here and install the control unit inside the right compartment by using double-sided tape and zip ties if needed. I hope you found today's video helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a channel subscriber. I really appreciate your continued support. I'll be back with another video similar to this one with detailed step-by-step installation guide. If you have requests for any of the installation guides, any other accessories, please let me know in the comment section below and I'll make a video about it. Thank you again for tuning in on today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back soon with another video. Namaste.